Welcome to Global HR Business. As you could see, this is the brand of today's show. We're going to be talking about remote talent. How do you manage remote people, especially now when there's a call to back to the office at least 2 or 3 days a week, seemingly everywhere? And so we have some expert advisors here. Ron Cooper is in the DC market. Uh, Renowned trainer, corporate trainer, and Christian TerNedden. We're going to be joined, hopefully, by a couple of others. Our friend Ken Lloyd is in LA, and his home is not burned. But they have no power, and
Mhm.
so they're staying at the daughter's home nearby where they do have power. Uh, and it's really a terrible, tragic seeing what's hit, not everywhere in LA. I think you're probably okay where you are, Christian.
I
And
am.
down here in San Diego is nothing, but upcountry and east of downtown here, they are saying there's going to be a very, very dangerous situation this afternoon and tonight. Um, Problem is that there's crazy people out there, not just in Southern California, but everywhere seemingly now, doing weird things like dropping matches, okay, and then getting in the car and leaving. No cameras see that, no nothing, so far anyway. And nature takes over. It is just a terrible situation in really beautiful, what was once beautiful areas. Probably will grow back one day, but I lived in West Side LA for more than 10 years, very successfully, as it turned out. And new people. In fact, there's people in the mobility business who are not in LA anymore. They're in New York area, but they grew up in Palisades. And
I used to work in
breathtaking.
Palisades.
Yeah,
I used to
breathtaking.
work in Palisades, and my former place of employment is at least damaged, if not burnt down, according to the latest news.
So there's a guy in Southern California in the LA market called Christopher Lechner. You may know him. He's got
We've met on your show,
yeah, real
and
estate
on,
company.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
Global
in real
Point.
life.
Yeah, good. He's a good guy and was a customer of mine 20 years ago. And we've been talking about him now coming on a show that I'm going to be doing, uh, focusing on California bound relocations. And so I sent him a note yesterday. He's living in Long Beach, Huntington Beach
Mhm.
area, so he's not impacted, but I sent him a note saying, LA needs PR help, positive PR. Why don't we get going on this project and let's focus in on Silicon Beach, which is Marina del Rey by
Mhm.
LAX, not impacted at all by the
Santa
fires.
Monica is.
Yeah, just north of there.
Mhm.
Yeah, right up to Wilshire, I think.
Mhm.
Right around that hotel, Miramar.
Mhm.
Uh,
It's not that far away.
yeah, it's close.
Mhm.
So, haven't heard back from him yet. But I said, I think now's the time we should launch this thing and get it going. So we'll see what happens with that. And I'm also going to do a San Diego bound, and hopefully, the winds. There's no wind right now where I am in downtown San Diego, but they say it's really going to ramp up this afternoon. So really prayers that this is okay. I just got a message from my son-in-law, Tim, who's up at his house in Big Bear, which
Mhm.
is at 7,000 feet. We sold our property there a few years ago, but he's still living there right on the lake. It's a beautiful home. He said they're getting dumped with snow. So there's no fire danger up there at
That's good.
7,000 feet. Um,
Has it
because
always
they
been that
they
way?
have had fires
Yes.
this earlier, uh, 6, 7 months ago. It came close, but the firefighters stopped it. So let's talk about remoteness now. God, where are all these people going to go live? Christian? What is going to the impact, mental health impact of having a beautiful home one day and then nothing except your life?
Yeah.
And
Well,
where are they living? They're going to be in hotels, I guess, right?
yeah, they're going to be in temporary housing
Right.
for a while. Some, of course, will be staying with family, like Ken is at this point. One of our really close friends, her sibling, her house in Altadena burned down, and
Oh,
she's now
what a
staying
beautiful
with
area
her.
that was.
Yeah,
That was and La
beautiful home.
Cañada up in the
We
hills
do
there.
have
Yeah,
people that we know in La Cañada. So, they'll be staying with family or in temporary housing until they can assess what to do next. And that
yeah,
will depend on insurance. I'm sure the insurance claim, it will be from,
huge.
exactly, we can already tell from the sheer area that's impacted that the insurance claims will be insane. And think of Paradise, California, which,
Right,
as far as I've read, basically doesn't really exist anymore. It's not going to be rebuilt as a town. I'm also thinking of places like New Orleans after Katrina, where people just moved away and never came back. To this
right,
day, they have a lot less population than before
right.
Katrina.
It was so traumatic. So let's talk about managing remote people. Ron, how are remote workers compensated differently than in-office workers?
I will give you, I'll qualify my response to you by saying not necessarily.
Mhm.
However, I will say that this topic is very real to me, and for your listeners and viewers, I'm on the East Coast, and I what I see in California is by way of news. I have lived a little bit in California, but a long time ago, and I've passed through, but I've not lived there. Now, I'm going to give you some of my perceptions that, yep, there are wildfires that are somewhat traditional. Yes, there are high winds and so forth, but let's just suppose I am CEO of a company with remote workers to include the two of you in California. I would hope to know exactly where you live,
Yeah,
what some of the let's say, traditional weather patterns are. And I want to know if you're in a perhaps fire danger area. If you live in Big Bear, much less of a fire hazard than if you're in Palisades and so forth. But I think effective leadership is one that tells you, Ed, you, Christian, because I want to know where you live, and I may need to dedicate a couple of hours to truly understand everything about where you are and
hmm,
whatever hazards may exist, potential hazards within your area. What I'm leading up to is I would hope I would be able to think into and think through different things that can happen to you. One, the current situation is fire hazards, but earthquakes.
hmm,
So there are different things that can happen to you, and what you may have a real time need for, whatever it is you're experiencing right now. And so I, as a leader, want to think into how would I communicate with you? What if you personally, or maybe you're caretaking for a parent who needs assistance? How
right.
can I show you that I genuinely care enough that if something were to happen, I'm in very near real time contact with you, such that I can right now contact you to see how you're doing, what your needs are, and the like. And so what I'm giving you a long-winded answer, Ed, but
No, that's good. I like it.
No, it's great.
everything I want to do for you is I have thought through this. I'm thinking ahead of, and I'm trying to project as much as I can what your situation is, such that I can, I'm not a soothsayer. but at least I can predict, hopefully, what your needs are. And I'm going to hopefully be able to project even ahead of what your needs are. But
Mhm.
I want you to know, as one of my staff, I genuinely care about you.
Mhm.
This all goes into it.
Total care. And
Great answer.
it's just beautiful.
Great answer.
I would like to work for you.
Yeah, I would too. I mean, I've had people that were their homes didn't burn down in previous fires, but they were evacuated. I've had people in the Trabuco Canyon area, which is kind of more in the woods, you know, kind of east of Irvine, and they were evacuated. And then, as the operations manager working directly with these people, I would need to know, right? And it wasn't just a matter of care, of course it was also, but I would need to know what what state are they in right now, right? How long, how impacted are they? It's more like building an emergency scenario kind of plan, right? And what you just said, Ron, would be part of that. But what you added to that is that you, as the leader, personally care, which that is not necessarily the norm in organizations. They have a plan. You can call a telephone number, and people will be there that will listen to you. But that you bring yourself in, that is very, very special. And yeah, as Ed said, I'd love to work for you too in that regard.
No, and I
Very
appreciate everything
good.
you're saying, Chris. I will tell you what I do want to work through. Well, let's just say, Christian, it's you and me. You're working for
Mhm.
me, and you are in California, and I know exactly where you live, and I know, okay, there's the earthquake and
Yeah,
wildfire hazard and so forth. Christian, what I may do is set aside telephone time with
yeah.
you. Or, okay, Christian, I'm going to walk you through because I'm very curious. What would you do if you experienced an earthquake and the roof of your house caved in? And, I mean, the walls are still there, but the roof is caved in. What
Yeah.
would you do? What would you do if you had the high winds and different things? Okay, I would ask you, Christian, who would you call
Mhm.
if you let's just say a tree landed on your car or your vehicle? How, and you had to evacuate? How would you do that? Have you
Mhm.
thought into this, thought through it? Because I want to learn from you in what your emergency resources are, such that if I contacted you remotely, how might I be able to help you even
Mhm.
from a remote situation? And so I want to do everything I can. I want to live in the moment. I'm going to
Mhm.
use that term with
Mhm.
whatever you are, or hopefully not are, but at least we have thought through what you
Mhm.
might experience. And I want to, and you may be thinking, gosh, Ron, what are you doing working me through all these emergency
No.
situations? None of this is going to happen. Well, we certainly hope so. I hope I'll be able to tell you that everything we're for the next hour or so is wasted time. I would hope it'll be wasted time, but it's not for me because I have a peace of mind. I hope you too would have a peace of mind
Yeah.
because we've already thought into this. And I
Yeah.
feel as if I know that at least questions to ask you. Christian, how can I help you?
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you. I don't think that that's a waste at all. I think that's vital for an organization that they have that. Um, Not just that they have a plan as to keeping track of their employees. Where are they? You know, do we even know where they are, as you said earlier? Are they impacted? Can they be reached? Things of that nature, but also that you're showing that you care personally. It's not just a checklist that you're going through as an organization. There's more behind that than just that. And as I said earlier, I think that's the big difference often between really showing care and just going through the checklist to cover yourself legally and so on, and making sure that there's no workers' comp claims because you know the roof fell on the roof caved in as you were working because you were in a meeting instead of evacuating as you should have, you know, that kind of scenario. So no, I completely agree. And the other thing is when you do what you just did, Ron, you also learn from, let's say, my experience or people's experience somewhere completely different. Let's say Galveston, Texas, floods, right? You learn from all that, and that will go into your general plan as to what happens. So if there's a flood somewhere else, then you know, okay, this is what happened in Galveston to my employee. So you know what questions to ask because you will be able to connect the two cases. And all of this will make not just you a better leader, but the whole organization will profit from that if you do that. So I think
No,
that's great.
exactly. And I will tell you from an East Coast perspective, a question I would ask you, Christian, is I have heard, Christian, but I need to hear it from you, that your governor is rerouting water,
Hmm.
river streams into the Pacific Ocean. Now, Christian, I don't know, but water, you're going to need water to fight fires. And I'm only curious, but are you going to have enough water? Should you have, if you're in a fire prone area, do you have the assurance, you personally, that you're going to have enough water to the fire hydrants to have fire trucks come to you? Or, and I understand we're looking to do a crystal ball to a degree, but if we can think into and think through this, I can say, well, Christian, there's a possibility that there may be a wildfire in water may be cut off, may not be
Hmm.
available to. And so I just want to help you think into this. Should that happen, or we even think the possibility, hey, your safety is far more important than your home. Hopefully we
Right,
can save both, but your life is far more important than the home. And so
right,
with that in mind, Christian, I might advise you to, hey, get out of the area, go hundreds of miles away,
right.
and but your life is far more important. I mean, that's paramount. And so
Hmm.
I hope, Christian, and I am talking with a speed of voice and so forth, but I care enough that I want to hopefully think into this and think through it before anything ever happens. But hey, should we come up against an emergency, we've already thought through it. We have a pretty
Right.
good idea of what we may, and hopefully we have 15 to 30 minutes we can think into this to where you can say, okay, here is the best action to take.
Yeah, excellent. So
Brilliant.
there
I
are
mean,
two.
we sit here, excuse me for instance, I don't have a plan. And, if there's an earthquake here in downtown San Diego, I don't know what we're going to do.
And
We
you're in a
have,
high rise, right?
no, it's only third floor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Still.
we're surrounded by high rises, but
Yeah,
this building, this is a city block long park with condos in it
yeah.
that was developed um, during the 80s, early 80s, and it's
Okay.
rock solid. It's very well maintained. Um, AAA credit rating, and it's a good, safe place. But there's new high rises all around. Uh, and the Embarcadero, the seaport is 2 blocks that way.
Mhm.
And this all used to be filled in land. So when they build a high rise here in this sector, they have to go into bedrock because it's all gushy
Mhm.
underneath. All
Mhm.
right. And so far nothing's fallen. So I don't mean to make a joke, but that's what it
No,
is.
but Ed, you're in a situation that, from my perspective, earthquakes are you're prone to an earthquake, but as far as predicting when, I mean, it's not like the weather
All right.
pattern that you can
Mhm.
predict those kind of things. So you have to think into some aspect of what if. And yes, your buildings are quote earthquake designed, but yet a strong enough earthquake is certainly going to disrupt highways and so
Right.
forth. And
Well,
so,
Power.
golly, what if? And so I am all into what if thinking, and we hope none of this would ever happen, but at least it's not going to catch me totally unaware that at least I've thought through different things. And so I'm going to have to make a decision within, who knows, 5 minutes.
so your background, you're military.
Yeah, I was just going to ask the same question.
You're just perfectly trained for
Yeah.
this kind of thinking, rapid fire and sureness. uh, you know, mental prepared. You may not know exactly what to do, but you know how to organize things to get.
Let's just say categorically, I feel like I know the various choices from which I make a decision. And so, yep, it's nothing is predetermined, but at
Right.
least I know you, your area, your housing well enough to know that, okay, here's what seem to be some possibilities. And hopefully, Ed, you and I would have 10, 15, 30 minutes to think through, Ed, what do you think would be the best action to take? And okay, now fire hazards are rateable, and if you're in an extremely high fire hazard area, we can think into it and say, okay, well, some what ifs. And so already we can think into various scenarios like that. And so earthquakes are very different, but at least Ed, I want to help you with some what if thinking.
So, to what extent should the HR business partner or the leader um, get into personal stuff, the employee's personal life at home?
Oh,
Um,
yep, Ed, I can tell you, I can take this into a long diatribe, but I will tell you, there is a continuum between home and the workplace. I, as a leader, want you to know, Ed, I care about you. Now, I'm not going to pry into your personal business at home, but I want you to know that there's a continuum between home and work. If things are going well at home, there's a reasonable chance you'll arrive to work happy. And the converse, if things are not going well at home, you're probably going to take home whatever's not working well at the office, you're going to take
right.
it home. And so that continuum exists. Now, Ed, I want for you to know that as your leader, I want to be as involved in your home affairs as you want me to be. And so I'm not going to pry into personal matters, but I know that there may be sometimes things are happening at home that you're unable to work through, or you say you're just so emotionally wrapped up that, man, I just feel like I'm tied down with various emotions. Ed, I understand that. And so if you want to take time out, and here's the psychologically safe space, if you want to take time out to just discuss what's happening, I care about that because I know your performance is going to be directly related to whatever it is that may be a higher priority emotionally, whatever you're thinking about at home. And so, once again, Ed, I don't want to pry into your personal business, but I want you to know I'm available. And so, once I have gained your trust and confidence, I might be able to have that psychologically safe, open conversation. I may not be the one to solve the problem, but I might be able to point you in a direction that have you considered speaking with. Again, Ed, it's all in the context of I care. I care about you. I want to keep you. I want to give you reason to stay with me because I value you. And I know the continuum of everything, and I apologize for going on a bit of a diatribe here, but this is all of what it's about.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so Christian, you have this experience, just going back to what you've mentioned on publicly
Mhm.
earlier, that you managed a team remotely.
Yeah, yeah,
And so you must have, I'm going to, because I've gotten to know you, I'm going to say that I bet you do what Ron was just talking about,
yes,
or what you
yes,
did, right,
yes,
with your
yes,
team. So
yes.
that, because I can see that you're really a swell guy, but
Thank
also
you.
you're just safe to be involved with. Safe.
Yes, and yes, I mean, without wanting to toot my own horn here, but yeah, I did. It's factual. Yes, I did do all of these things. I did have situations like that. I did have situations where it was definitely a decision process to figure out what should stay with me and where I needed help with HR. I've had some of these cases as well. And it was it's harder when you have people working remotely for you, right? Because You can't, the body, some of the body language is not visible, and in a situation like that where it's emotional, sometimes, I have hugged people. They came to me first, but that has happened. And it's a whole lot harder in a remote situation, obviously. But apart from what you just said, both of you, there's also a abstract organizatorial aspect and an administrative aspect to all of this, right? If you let's set aside the care and all of these good, ethical, positive things, these actions. I need to know, okay, there's work that this employee is doing. Do I need to redistribute that? If so, to whom? Um, do I need to maybe make sure that this employee has less work coming in for a certain period of time? That happened all the time. And if so, at what point do we say, hey, check in with each other and say, are you okay now? Can you take your normal workload again? Maybe it ties into coaching. This is you hinted at that, Ron, by saying maybe I can't resolve your problem, but I have suggestions on who to talk to. Uh, Maybe there's people who are better able to coach a particular employee in a particular situation than I am. I'm not the be all and end all here. So, setting all this up and trying to look for solutions, not just for the employee, as important as that is, but also for the bigger goal of the enterprise, I think is a big part of that. And similarly for an HR business partner, they are definitely also affected by this continuum. They would need to know certain things. They would maybe want to know certain things to help out, but they also can't pry, as you just said, Ron. They can't. They have to be very cognizant and careful about other people's boundaries.
I will add on to that, Christian, by saying that from my perspective, HR, people and processes have to work together.
Yes.
From the process perspective, HR might be the home, so to speak, of a process. Do we have a process to work through? And let's just say that okay, yeah, there's maternity leave, but let's just say that aside from that, I know you're going through something emotionally trying, Ed, Christian, and okay, I tell you what, Christian, why don't you just take time off right now, and so I've got to be aware of any statutes that are applicable here, but I just want you to know that
Yep.
common sense dictates. And yes, I've got to be compliant with whatever statutes
Hmm.
apply, but HR, I'm going to rely on you to keep me straight on
Hmm.
what the statutes are. But
Hmm.
because I'm not the person who wants to know the detail of reading the books of the statutes, HR, tell me. Here's
Hmm.
what I want to do. HR, keep me straight. Make sure that I'm not violating anything. But I just
Right.
know Christian needs time off, and he needs to do. And so
Yeah.
again, make certain I am legal. I feel like I know what I'm doing, but I may not
Yeah.
know the legalities of it. But keep me safe from that. But I am responsible for my people. You HR are responsible for finding the right people. I am the
Hmm.
one. I am the person who's responsible to lead you and nurture you, Christian. That's how I differentiate a little bit of if I am the CEO, the program manager in the HR function. I feel like I'm talking too much here.
No,
No,
no, this is
that's
brilliant.
100% right. I mean,
It's
I've had
brilliant.
examples where I did exactly that, right? I would go to HR and say, all right, we've got somebody on leave. What are the rules? And the rules may also be different in different states. California has paid family leave, for instance. If you want to or need to care for a family member that's sick, there's a leave for that in California. You get your job, you get to keep your job, and the state will pay some of your salary during that time. I've used it for paternity leave back when my kids were born. It was brand
Hmm.
new then.
I had no idea. Wow.
Well, it was brand new when Natalie was born. It was like I think the second year that it was available, and I was the first one in my office of over 100 people to use it. got a lot of flack for it, but I said, you know what? I'm an immigrant. I read the rules. This is my right. I'm going to go do it. So it's it's definitely important that the operations manager who deals with the employee goes to HR, knows the rule of the game, and can ask the right questions. I agree with you 100%, Ron, and thanks for pointing all that out.
And right there is very important, Christian. Can I ask the right question? Okay.
Yeah.
HR, Christian needs time off. My sense is if he could just take, let's just say 2 days and
Mm-hmm.
go somewhere, can I do this? Can I legally let him do that? I want him on paid administrative time
Mm-hmm.
off. And
Mm-hmm.
can I legally do that? And so
Mm-hmm.
this is what I sense, man,
Mm-hmm.
because of my personal relationship with Christian. HR, let's make sure that what I'm doing, and I want to tell Ed, Christian, but I just want to make sure that, again, I'm not violating any
Mm-hmm.
state rules or so forth. And if there's funding available, hey, I just happen to know that Christian is having some financial challenges. Is there maybe state funding, anything that's
Mm-hmm.
available to me? Hey, I don't know what all's available, but
Mm-hmm.
I need for you to help me fill in the knowledge gaps.
Right. That's happened to me. Done that with people. I mean, I've told a bunch of people about this paid family leave, for example, right? Because it's just like you, Ed, they didn't know about it because it was new.
Right, right. So I've been getting messages, you may have noticed there, and just got one from Gosha, who's
Mm-hmm.
HR leader with a company in Delaware called Axalt, which is a spinoff of DuPont.
Mm-hmm.
And she was going to be our special guest today on this topic. So she just sent me this long note about crisis that's going on, and it's requiring her full attention. So this is a perfect example, Ron, of what you were just describing, how you would do things. That's this person, Gosha, uh, is that kind of a person too. So she'll be on another program and we could continue or expand on this conversation. I thank you guys for doing this. So let's summarize for the benefit of the audience out there who will see this in the coming weeks. Remote people, remote workers uh, depend, I'm going to make a statement, depend upon the generosity of the leader, uh, like you guys, leaders. And would you agree that it all depends on the training and the mental capacity of the leader, manager?
I firmly agree with that.
Yeah.
It's a matter of awareness. And remote frequently is, as we're doing right now, Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
And people are going to do whatever they need to do to present an appearance in front of the camera. And so I may be masking you right now. And those who are on electronic Zoom or otherwise may be masking something, but who are they once we're no longer on camera, so to speak? And it's not until we can know what's happening behind the scenes, behind the mask, so to speak. But some people are just not going to feel comfortable at all saying anything in a forum such as this, where how do we meet remotely? And so I need to know personalities, dispositions, and so forth. I may know that Ed, you would never say anything in a group environment like this, so I need to talk with you one on one. That
Mm-hmm.
how
That's
are
right.
things going on? And so some of us would feel comfortable saying, "Hey, I don't mind telling you in a group forum," but there's some who would never do that. And so, much longer conversation is needed, but you have to know your people. You have to know the inner workings. You have to know what mask they may be hiding behind.
And so some workers will fake it, will
Yeah.
have a different personality when they are working, and um, they want to they think it's self-protection, I would
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah.
Um, or they're just afraid to display who they might be at home.
Oh, sure. And I
Yeah.
would, and Ed, that is the proverbial, hey, we had a very congenial, upbeat 17-second conversation at the water fountain, coffee bar, or something like this. And it's not until I walk maybe past you and I think, hey, you just look a little bit different, Ed. You
Mhm.
just had a frown on your face that led me to think that, man, just maybe, just maybe. But if I dismiss it and I
Mhm.
don't have the courage to just have a conversation with you, you may be going through something that could lead to something far more in depth than what's happening. But I've got to have the courage. I have to care enough, Ed, to just ask you. And you may
Mhm.
assure me, yep, no. Hey, everything is all right. Okay, okay. Ed. I just thought the frown on your face just led me to think, but at
Mhm.
least I had the courage to ask you. And if I have developed trust and confidence with you, that may be the opportunity to say, well, something actually is bothering me. I'll tell you what, Ed, how about if we just, at 5 o'clock tonight, how about if we just go somewhere and share some time together? And with that, you have the confidence that I really do care enough. I may not be able to do it right now, but I will tell you, I will make time for it.
Right. I this is
Yeah.
great, and I'm thinking
Yeah.
of all these people that where I had conversations like that with, and it's nice to hear from a coach and an experienced leader that that's the right thing to do. It's a definitely a confirmation, reaffirming what I've done instinctively. But one word kind of struck me the wrong way, and that was generosity. I don't think it should be considered generosity. I think it's first of all it's ethical. It's the right thing to do. But it's also bottom line. It's plain good business sense to behave that way. As I said earlier, there's the organizational administrative aspect to all of what we're talking about. And um, yeah, I liked it better the way you phrase it afterwards, Ed, when you left out the word generosity, because I do generosity sounds to me a little patronizing, condescending. I'm a good guy, I'm doing you a favor by caring whether your house still stands. And that's not what it should be like, and that's not smart business sense either.
So some people are really afraid of displaying weakness, some kind of
Hmm.
problem, uh, some issue at home, uh, and because they're afraid of losing their job. They don't want to be become an issue to the boss.
Yes.
So the boss is watching though, right? And so it's more better, this stupid language, but better for the employee to be open and trusting and
Yes.
not be double crossed by the boss. That fear of being double crossed because of being vulnerable and saying that, hey, I got a problem with the wife or the kid or financially. And so, I mean, I got all this stuff going on. So I don't want to lose my job. So I can't complain to you as the boss about something that's going on in my life. I don't.
And I will say, in that context, I use the term, and I think I've used it here once or twice before. It is good for a leader to be what I call appropriately vulnerable. I'm not going to
Mhm.
focus on and dwell on my past, but I just want for you to know that hey, I've experienced what you
Right.
are experiencing. We don't need to dwell on my past, but I want to be able to effectively identify with what you're going through. And I had a podcast just yesterday where we were discussing addictions, and I've not experienced the addiction this person is going through, but I'll get you in touch with a person who can help you. And
Mhm.
that's just one mere example. But as I can appropriately identify with you, maybe my past has overcome what you've experiencing. But even if not, hey, I can appropriately identify with you. I want to help you. And and I don't think any less of you because of it, Ed. I want you to know that. So I would hope that you would openly share this with me because, again, your performance is dependent on your well being, and the profits will necessarily follow. And so I'm not going to focus on the profits. I'm going to focus on the people. The profits will logically follow with that. There are a lot of P words that, your performance, profit, and so forth, but it's all a matter of I do care about. And so, again, long-winded answer, but yes, I think it is very necessary to be appropriately vulnerable. Hey, been there and done that, and here's how I overcame it.
Yeah,
So
agree.
the theme of psychological safety
Hmm.
at work, at home, all of that is actually magnified, isn't it, Christian, when people are on assignment? Because they're thrown into a strange environment.
Sure, sure. I mean, it can be, right? It doesn't necessarily always have to be, but I would say the risk of it coming to the surface is definitely higher. Um, that's another good example, by the way, of the relocation consultant finding that continuum and drawing a very fine line as to being emphatic, not being in somebody's business, but also keeping in mind that the relocation is a project. And I may have shared this before, but I've had several people on assignment who got divorced right before, or said, my wife, well, we had a welcome call together, husband and wife, or wife and husband, and all of a sudden I hear, you know what, there's no ticket to the destination because the spouse isn't coming. Oh, spouse coming later? I don't know. We're working through things.
Mhm.
Okay. As a relocation consultant, I'm not going to ask what exactly is going on, but I will have to know there may or may not be a final trip during that about 1 year that we're looking at this assignment, sending the person there. There may or may not be a final trip for the spouse. So that's kind of what I was alluding to earlier. That's the administrative aspect again, right? Which an experienced consultant, just like an experienced leader, would have to kind of also keep on their radar, for later on, while they're in the situation, while they're being emphatic, while they're caring about the employee, and trying to, as Ron just said, either help directly or connect them with people who can.
And Christian, in that context, I would say that if the leader is appropriately aware, he or she can project various possibilities. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not a soothsayer, but yet, okay, relocating. I've heard some comments you've made, and causes me to wonder: is everything all right with your marriage, your relationship, and
Exactly.
so forth? But I have to have the courage to ask and do it appropriately, the
Mm-hmm.
appropriate time. But if I exude the fact that I care, I'm just
Mm-hmm.
well, okay, I know that these are some of the underlying factors that will affect your performance here in the workplace. And but it all goes to the totality of your, call it mental health, your
Mm-hmm.
well-being, and I care. Again, we go back to that fundamental premise of I care enough
Mm-hmm.
to be aware, and I do collect what I call our data points.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not looking for negative. I
Mm-hmm.
want to be very aware of my surroundings, and the various data points help me to be totally situationally aware of the
Mm-hmm.
environment and the people in which I have responsibility.
So as we come to a close here in the next few minutes, because this could go on and on and on, and I would love to expand this into a next edition. The issue of being an expat on an expat assignment, and so Christian, you're the prime example of coming into the U.S. as
Not on
uh,
assignment.
not on assignment. This is
Not on
for
assignment.
so this is a
No employer
personal,
involved. Yeah.
no employer,
No
just
employee involved. We had
just
no jobs. Neither my wife nor I had a job coming to the US. We just moved.
so that's got a lot of energy behind it. Okay, positive energy rather than fear or anger. But
Um,
when somebody
there was
say
anger, all right. That's one of the reasons
oh,
why we
really?
left. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah,
and
definitely.
so I'm not prying or anything because I read this article in the New York Times recently about the expat, quote unquote, Americans who are leaving the country because of politics or because they are on assignment. Okay. And uh, this is very well written. And the author is reminded me of you because your use of language is so perfect and
Thank you.
deep, and
Thank you.
you loquacious about
Oh,
explaining things.
I talk a lot.
And so,
Yeah.
so this guy who wrote this article talked about the negatives.
Hmm.
He not totally, but the huge negative that at first he ignored, and then that feeling gnawed at him inside day in, day out going forward of being a trespasser here, American in England, for instance. And every conversation would open, new conversation would open. I thought you Yanks did this or acted that way, but I see you don't do that.
Hmm.
And there's always like,
Prejudice. Yeah.
well, almost like an accusation or just being
Yeah.
put on the spot rather than be
Yeah.
sort of welcomed without that.
Yeah.
Okay. And that feeling grows inside the expat, feeling of discomfort, a
Hmm.
feeling of not belonging, or
Right.
a feeling of what am I doing here? Why am I doing
Right.
this? And then dealing with other expats and having that conversation magnifies it as well as soothes it sometimes. But
Exactly.
yeah,
Hmm.
and then they finally leave that assignment and come back home, and then they are just relieved and so
Hmm. It can
pleased
be.
to be out of that, even though there's some discomfort of coming back because you can't
Hmm.
go home again to the same things. It's going to be
Right.
different because of your own experiences, your own views. But maybe you like that. That's how you want to be. That's how you remember anything. I don't know. I'm talking too much, but I know you would have that experience. And Ron, did you have that in your work life, prior work life? Did you have that experience of dealing with people who were like a fish out of water and they could never adjust, or they had anger, or they had other feelings that impacted their work strength?
Oh, I can tell you very definitely, yes, Ed. I will tell you just very briefly an experience in Germany, the weather. That it
Hmm.
would be very common that we would have, when I was on military assignment in Germany, there could be 3, 4 months of overcast and you wouldn't see the sun. The only way,
That's right.
literally, I saw the sun was when I flew above the clouds and I saw the sunshine. But as soon as I landed, now, here's what the impact on some people was. If you don't see the sunshine, some people allow that to affect their emotions. I mean, they are very sullen. They're down, and you have to be aware of these type things that can affect people. And so, uh,
Who would ever think of that otherwise?
yeah,
Huh.
how about that? It's I mean, unless you are, I'm going to use the term open-minded and think about those kind of things. Well, we haven't had sunshine in 3, 4, some amount of time, and I mean, some people can get into a real emotional or mental health low because of that, and they may not even aware, or they may not be at the
Right.
forefront of where they are emotionally. But one more time, we as leaders have got to be aware. We have to be aware and we have to be observant. And so, again, we're not accusatory of anything, but we've got to be aware and observant such that if a person is in that kind of condition, that in this case, I'm down because of no sunshine, uh, we have to do whatever we have to do to help that person through that. We're not going to change the fact that we've got the cloud cover, but how are you going to help that person deal with that kind of a situation? And so, Ed, another long answer to yes, you're dealing with people, various emotions, different things can trigger or activate different emotions within a person, and just as a leader, accept it. It happens. And some people may need a little more help than others, but if they're worthy of, and you know that they're capable of, we want to help their performance and know what their potential is. And you're worth working with, Christian and Ed. I'll do whatever I need to. So it's all a part of leadership.
Mhm.
This has been a great show. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
So
you, Ed.
I'll be back to you. Have a good
Thanks.
day.
Thanks,
All
you
right.
too. Bye.
Ciao.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ron. Bye.
Thank